From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast designed to empower women to become the leaders they are destined to be. Today's episode is all about how to leverage the power of focus. The reason this is on my mind lately, I think, is because I've realized, I talk to so many people, both in our speaking, when Mac and I are traveling and speaking at conferences and events or doing leadership trainings. And then a lot of people, I have a lot of conversations with people on LinkedIn. And what I've realized is that distractions are a very real thing for all of us. And, I guess on some level, I've always known that. And I've known that to be successful in my own life, I have to be extremely focused and I have to be able to minimize distractions. But it's just kind of been a theme in some of the conversations that I've had recently with people, is that we all know there are things that we could do and should do and want to do, but we get distracted along the way, or we lose focus, or we lose momentum, or we lose inspiration and discipline, motivation. And we could talk for days on every single one of those, but today I wanted to talk about leveraging the power of focus. How do we do that? Because I think if we can be more focused, it allows us to be more intentional, but it also allows us to minimize those distractions that tend to pop up. So 3 things that I wanted to share with you today on how to be more focused, how to leverage the power of staying focused. Number 1, you've got to see it, right? You've got to see exactly what your priority is or your goal is, and you've got to visualize it. You've got to be able to see it in your head. And I love to visualize what success would look like. Whether it's something small, like I have a to-do list sitting here on my desk, and I loved, as I'm writing this to-do list, and it could really fill up the page and then some, but I try to list my important priorities or things that I don't want to forget. But as I start my day, I love to choose, just the top 1, 2, or 3 priorities that I realistically know I can achieve. And I like to visualize how it's going to feel when I cross that out as done. Now, here's the thing. I know that I'm not the only person who has ever had a to-do list. And have you ever had a to-do list and you got like 10 things on it, and you find yourself doing something that's not on the list? And then you run over to your list and you write down whatever it is you didn't do just so you could cross it off? I know I'm not the only one who's done that. Why? Why do we bother with writing down something that we've already done just for the satisfaction of crossing it off? It comes back to being able to visualize, because as humans, we have a chemical called dopamine that is created in our brain or our body that rewards us. It's kind of the reward chemical or the reward hormone. It's just, as humans, we are wired to accomplish something because it feels good when we get that dopamine chemical. And there's nothing wrong with that. It helps us biologically feel like we're accomplishing something when we're able to scratch through something on our to-do list. And so even if it's something we did that wasn't on the list, we want that dopamine hit. And so we go write it down just so we can feel the satisfaction of crossing it off. So you've got to be able to see it. You've got to be able to visualize it. That's why I believe in the power of writing things down. It helps us see it. And then number 2, you've got to be able to say it, right? When it comes to being focused, you've got to be able to verbalize it. And by that, I mean be specific, right? In step 1, when we talk about seeing it, it's kind of visualizing the big picture. But you've also got to be able to quantify it, to say it, to speak it, to be specific about it. And you've heard of the term SMART goals, attributed to Peter Drucker. Where the S is specific and the M is measurable, and then A is for action items, R is for realistic, and T is for time or time bound. But that comes down to being able to say whatever it is that your priority is or your focus is. You've got to be able to say it and to speak it and to be very specific about it. I read somewhere that research shows us we are 300% more likely to achieve a goal when we write it down and very specifically write down that goal. 300% more likely to do something when we are specific about it and we write it down. So get specific. And anytime I'm coaching someone, I sometimes I have to challenge them here, because we'll write down something like, oh, I want to lose weight. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but let's get specific about it. Let's get specific about when and how we're going to do it, and let's say it, because that's leveraging the power of focus. Because if we can visualize it and then we can and see it, really, it's much easier to make it become reality. And then if we can say it, we can verbalize it, we can share it with others, right? And that helps us, enlist the help of others. We can get some support from someone else. So we've got to be able to say it. And then third thing about leveraging focus, stick with it, right? And that might be the toughest one. It's easy to set a goal or just to set your intentions for the day. We can be specific about it when we know what that looks like, but the hardest thing sometimes is sticking with it. I did a podcast interview I was interviewed on someone else's podcast yesterday, and this topic came up: saying no to things that aren't in alignment with your highest and best priorities. And the question that the interviewer asked was, what's something that has helped you launch? And when I had to think about it, I mean, there's several things that I can attribute success to, but one of the biggest ones, and I had to share this, was saying no to some good things in order to say yes to great things. And it's a struggle for me. I'm quite transparent about it, because I think a lot of us, when we are achievers, when we are doers, when we're leaders, we just have a bias to jumping in and doing stuff and making stuff happen. And we want to accomplish, we want to achieve. But activity doesn't necessarily equal accomplishment. Let me just say that again. Activity doesn't equal accomplishment. And I find that it's easy for me. I'm a doer, right? I like to do things. I forget who is it that says, sometimes we're so busy as a human doing that we forget to be a human being. And I know that sometimes that's my challenge. I want to fill the day with stuff to do and do things, and that makes me feel good. It makes me feel accomplished, but it's not necessarily the right kind of activity. And saying no to some things gives us space to say yes to the right things. It's a hard thing to do. Sit down and look at your calendar for the last week and look at where your time went. And I'm serious, sit down and carve some space out. Look at your calendar and be honest with yourself. How much time did I spend scrolling Facebook or Instagram? If you've got an iPhone, your phone will give you a report that'll tell you exactly how much time you spent on which app. It's amazing. It's eye-opening. So, go look at that. Look at how much time you spent sleeping, how much time you spent watching TV. There's nothing right or wrong with any of those activities, but it's eye-opening when we reflect back and we realize how much and where our time is going, to what activity. So when you do that, stick with your biggest priorities. You can look back at last week and say, man, I spent more time than I realized watching TV. I don't want to do that next week because I have some other things that I want to do that will serve me better. So say no to some of those TV opportunities and say yes to other things, right? When you say no to more time spent watching TV, it gives you more time and energy and room in your calendar or your day to say yes to some things that serve you better. So stick with it. I know that's one of the most difficult things to do. I know, because it's something that certainly I struggle with. But go through that little exercise. Honestly evaluate where your time is going and look at the areas that you maybe just need to trim down or decrease or say no to. And sometimes it's hard to say no to some good things, but it allows you to really focus more of your time and energy on the great things. And that helps you do that mentally when you know why. You're saying yes to a bigger purpose. Until next time.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.